Welcome to SVG-TV News for Friday, August 22nd, 2025. I am Rochelle Baptiste with the details. A greater self-reliance on local resources, particularly in agriculture and fishing, is essential to achieving food sovereignty and true emancipation in St. Vincent and Grenadines and the wider Caribbean region. This was a central message from Dr. Andrea Vera, lecturer in science education at the University of the West Indies Five Islands campus, who delivered the keynote address at the Oscar Allen Memorial Emancipation Lecture held last evening. Dr. Vera emphasized the urgent need for collective, community-driven action to strengthen local food systems and reduce reliance on imported goods. She called on communities to re-engage with traditional practices while incorporating modern techniques to enhance sustainability and resilience.
It can only be championed if we as human beings collectively agree to maintain social peace. This is a precursor to food sovereignty. If we cannot socially agree and work together and get along, it's not going to work. We have to institute the good traditional farming practices, all while adopting safe, modern agricultural techniques. The social peace is of utmost importance as we agree to work together fairly towards a food sovereign nation and region, one that embraces the traditions of our indigenous peoples, takes the best from our tragic slave trade history, and merge them with the modern practices and principles that work in tandem with our lands as a holistic package. We must agree to work together towards one common goal that is approached unselfishly and through community numbers and land sizes, power and empowerment through numbers and unity.
Acknowledging the efforts currently being made in St. Vincent and the Grenadines to encourage greater participation in farming and fishing, Dr. Vera noted that more needs to be done. She offered several recommendations, including increased involvement of young people, more targeted educational initiatives, and enhanced support for small-scale producers.
Can institute the following. 1. A national food and agricultural policy that extensively addresses food sovereignty as a means to food security, inclusive of export and import restrictions that lead to that self-reliance type of community and country. This would also have to include access to lands and insurances for disasters. We are living in a disaster-prone region. 2, continue to decolonialize our classrooms as we decolonize the curriculum to give value and recognition to agricultural science and sustainable food systems. It is time that we recognize without food producers, we would all not be here. The value and recognition needs to be placed within the schools, from the preschool level all the way up. Yes, we have instituted universal early childhood education, universal secondary education. We have digitized the system. We're doing excellent things in education here in St. Vincent, but we need to add more.
The lecture was attended by several key stakeholders in the agriculture sector, including Minister of Agriculture, Sabota Caesar. In his remarks, Minister Caesar pointed to the persistent negative perceptions surrounding careers in agriculture and stressed the importance of changing these outdated views in order to attract a new generation to the sector.
But my father told me when I was growing up, I want you to pick up your book because I don't want you to come and walk land like me. And you had an entire generation and generations where our parents told us to become doctors, lawyers, because in their minds, social mobility meant anything outside of agriculture. So now we are speaking about food sovereignty and the active participation of citizens in producing food. The discussion has now gone full circle. And now that the discussion has gone full circle, for those parents who are alive and for current parents, I need to tell my son Saj that agriculture is equally as good a job when you speak about social stratification, about social mobility, as being an engineer and being a doctor.
The Oscar Allen Memorial Lecture is held annually in honor of the late Oscar Allen, a respected social activist, community builder and farmer who played a vital role in advancing agriculture and rural development in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Police recruits in St. Vincent and the Grenadines are now better equipped to investigate and trace illegal financial activities, including money laundering and asset recovery, following a specialized training initiative aimed at strengthening the country's law enforcement capabilities. The 5-day training was made possible through the collaboration of the Royal St. Vincent and Grenadines Police Force, the RSVGPF, the Regional Security System, the RSS, and the SVG Financial Intelligence Unit, the FIU. More than 100 police recruits were trained in techniques designed to disrupt criminal enterprises and bring perpetrators to justice. Lieutenant Commander of the SVG Coast Guard emphasized the importance of officers acquiring specialized skills to effectively combat modern criminal threats, especially in the financial and cyber space.
Recovery is not simple about tracing money, freezing account, or seizing property. It is about justice. It is about ensuring that crime does not pay, and it is about restoring to the people what belongs to them. Organized crime thrives when its profits are left untouched. Syndicates build empires on illicit wealth, funding further violence, corruption, and instability. By targeting those assets, you can cut off the oxygen that sustain criminal enterprises. You weaken their grip, you protect communities, you send a strong message. St. Vincent and the Grenadines will not be a haven for dirty money. But this work is not easy. It requires patience, precision, and above all, integrity. You would have heard that from all of the speakers before me. The techniques you have learned during this training will be tested in a real-world situation where criminals will adapt and pressure may arise. What must remain constant is your commitment to fairness, accountability, and the rule of law.
Letitia Sandy Max, director of the SVG Financial Intelligence Unit, was one of the lead facilitators. She underscored the importance of critical thinking when conducting investigations, encouraging recruits to approach each case methodically and analytically.
You're supposed to question things. Why does a particular piece of legislation exist? Is a process fair? Are we truly protecting the people we are meant to protect and serve? And the fact that the legal officers of the FIU, the financial investigators of the FIU, the deputy director of the FIU, who is also a police officer, and the director of the FIU participated so actively in this training is testimony to how invigorated we were by your participation. We had discussions during lunch and at the end of the day about the questions you asked, about, as I said, that critical thinking and that engagement. We are very busy, but for them to want to come and spend the time with you, answer questions during the break, that speaks volumes of how highly they think of you. And I want you to always remember that.
One of the participating recruits shared that among the highlights of the training were practical tools for information gathering and data collection, which will greatly enhance their investigative capabilities in the field.
If I had to summarize this program in one sentence, it would be this. We learned how to follow the money, intercept it, and take it back to the confiscated asset fund. We kickstarted the week with money laundering, the sophisticated process that criminals use to clean their dirty money and make it look legitimate. We dissected the layers of placement, layering, and integration to understand how we can disrupt criminal activities. From here, we moved on to instruments of disruption, cash seizures, and forfeiture. We learned the legal pathways, both criminal and civil, to ensure that assets of criminal proceeds are permanently removed from the hands of criminals.
The SVG-TV have expressed optimism that with ongoing support and training, law enforcement will be better positioned to stay ahead of technological advanced criminals, particularly by building stronger cybercrime and financial intelligence units. In other local news now, we hear that Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves has once again reaffirmed his government's unwavering support for the people and government of Taiwan. He also encouraged recipients of this year's MOFA and ICDF Taiwan scholarships not to take the opportunity for granted. Dr. Gonsalves was speaking at the official awards ceremony for the 30 Vincentian students who have been granted scholarships this year to pursue higher education in various fields in Taiwan. Reflecting on the long-standing relationship between St. Vincent and the Grenadines and Taiwan, the Prime Minister shared that his first official state visit after assuming office in 2001 was to Taiwan, a deliberate move to signal the importance of the bilateral relationship. He noted that the scholarship program began in 2004 and since then 321 Vincentian students have benefited from the educational opportunities provided through the Taiwan scholarship initiatives.
Each of these scholarships, the 5-year period. You do the language for the first year, Mandarin, and then you do 4 years substantively on your subject. It costs, in all money for the 5 years, $200,000. You do the math. The 30 this year, over your period there, is going to cost $6 million. From 2004 to now, the 321, do the math. You can do the mental arithmetic. It's $60.42 million. Very simple. But we are transforming lives and livelihoods. The individual, for the families, and for our country. You have more students going off now on one scholarship program than existed for students at all universities when I arrived in 2001. I want that to sink in. What you see here is more than all which existed in 2001 for all universities, including the University of West Indies.
The Prime Minister also announced that on Wednesday he approved the 2,466 tuition scholarships for students who will be pursuing university studies, continuing his government's efforts to expand access to higher education.
I want that number to be in your head. 2,466. Approved yesterday. 75 students who have won the Monroe scholarships. Some are going to New York, some going to St. Lucia, most of them going to do it online. The degrees. In Cuba alone, as I speak to you, I have 50 students there doing medicine and scholarships. Yesterday, I approved several, and the week before, several more, few more. Students who are going off to do their professional law studies, to get their legal education certificate at the Hugh Law School or the Norman Manley Law School in Jamaica. Each of those students, we pay annually 75% of their tuition, their fees, because we are not members of the Council for Legal Education. But what we pay is more than what any country pays for our students, even for those who are part of the Council for Legal Education. The reason
Dr. Gonzalez urged the students heading to Taiwan to make full use of the opportunity, reminding them that their achievements will reflect not only on themselves and their families, but also on the nation as a whole. And Minister of Education Curtis King has expressed a deep satisfaction with what he describes as the remarkable progress made in St. Vincent and the Grenadines education system, emphasizing its ongoing transformation and growing impact on the nation's development. Speaking on Star FM last night, Minister King highlighted the significant strides taken over the years to improve access to and the quality of education across the country. He reflected on a time when secondary education was virtually inaccessible to many Vincentians, recalling that a large number of students were unable to advance beyond grade 5. He described that era as a difficult period marked by limited opportunities and systematic barriers for young people seeking education.
Where secondary education was concerned, it was terrible. At a time when the world and the region too, because there were studies done by the OECS in our education system, and everyone at the time was advocating for universal secondary education. Why? Because by the turn of the last decade in the 20th century, that is to say, in 1990s, it was recognized by all and sundry that a basic education could not be regarded as being achieved if students were leaving at the primary school level.
Minister King noted that the evolution of the education system began in earnest in 1979, coinciding with national independence. He credited successive governments with advancing policies and implementing programs aimed at expanding and modernizing the sector. This collective effort, he said, has significantly improved educational outcomes and increased the availability of resources throughout the nation.
Since 1979, the various governments have embarked on policies and programs aimed at addressing our historical problems associated with our development, as well as contemporary issues that emerge in our very lifetime. And the progress made by each political party that form government can be measured. Each political party that formed government in the post-independence period sought to address the gaps that we inherited in our education system, in our health system, in every major sector of our society. But remember, I'm here focusing on education. And I'm saying we can measure each of our parties' success with regards to what they have done to transform our society.
Minister King reaffirmed the government's commitment to ensuring continued excellence across all levels of education. He expressed confidence that with sustained investment and strategic planning, Vincentian students will continue to thrive both locally and internationally.
We continue to see our students excelling at all levels of our education system. And what is very important is the fact that these students will be pursuing studies that will seek to enhance their own personal development, their own living circumstances, as well as contribute to the further advancement and development of St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
We hear that the Vincentian music community is mourning the loss of one of its most beloved and influential figures, Godfrey Dublin, lead vocalist and founding member of the legendary band Touch, who passed away today. Dublin's distinctive voice and musical talent helped define an era of Vincy soca and calypso, leaving a lasting legacy that continues to inspire new generations of artists and fans alike. Whether performing solo or alongside his bandmates in Touch, Freemas delivered timeless music that captured the soul of the nation. Together with Touch, Dublin won multiple road match titles, contributing hits that became carnival anthems such as Move Your Front, Kangaroo, and Taking Away Somebody, Woman. His powerful stage presence and ability to connect with crowds made him a household name throughout the Caribbean. In a heartfelt tribute posted on the band's official Facebook page, Touch describes Dublin's artistry as deeply impactful. Freemas gave us rhythm, voice, and heart. His music was more than song, it was soul. The band continued his legacy, said that his legacy will live on in every note we play and every memory we hold. Rest well, brother, you will always be part of our harmony. Touch ended their message by extended condolences to Dublin's family, particularly his children and siblings, asking fans to remember the joy and culture he brought to life through music. Godfrey Dublin's influence on Vincy music cannot be overstated. He was more than a performer, he was a cultural icon whose contribution to the nation's musical identity will be remembered for years to come. May his soul rest in peace. In other local news now, we hear that a news article published today by the Jamaica Gleaner reports that police in Manchester, Jamaica are investigating the discovery of skeleton remains believed to be that of a woman from St. Vincent and the Grenadines. According to the report, 29-year-old entrepreneur Christania Brown, originally from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, has been missing since October of last year. The article states that around 12:05 p.m. on Thursday, police were alerted to a scene in Old England, Feppen Forest, Manchester. Upon arrival, officers discovered skeleton remains inside a one-room structure. The scene was processed by investigators and the remains were removed to facilitate a post-mortem examination to confirm the identity and determine the cause of death. The matter is currently being investigated by the Mandeville Criminal Investigation Branch. SVG-TV News will continue to follow this developing story and provide updates as more information becomes available. A total of 126 young people ages 9 to 15 have successfully completed the Royal St. Vincent and Grenadines Police Force Band summer program, gaining musical skills and life lessons along the way. Over the course of 5 weeks, the program saw the participation of 83 boys and 43 girls, a turnout that was highly commended by Bandmaster Sergeant Vaughn Miller, who coordinated the initiative. Sergeant Miller noted that the program was not limited to music training alone, but also focus on the development of essential life skills, including discipline, teamwork, and personal growth. Participants were engaged through both practical instruction and interactive educational sessions.
It's never just about playing an instrument. We place equal emphasis on building knowledge, awareness, and character. Participants benefited from educational lectures on important life topics including HIV and AIDS, presented by Mr. Whitfield Tanis Abbott. Human trafficking, delivered by Constable Shannon Joseph of the Human Trafficking Unit within our organization. Sexual offenses was also delivered by members of the Sexual Offensive Units also within the Royal St. Vincent and the Grenadines Police Force. These sessions were designed to equip our young people with the information value the need to protect themselves and make wise decisions in the future.
The RSVGPF hosted a number of youth-centered summer programs this year, a commitment highlighted by Superintendent of Police Hezron Ballantyne, head of the Administrative Division. He emphasized the importance of keeping young people positively engaged during the long school break.
Talents opens a door Consistent work keeps you in your room. The band summer program stands alongside other youth efforts of the Royal St. Vincent and Grenadines Police Force, police youth clubs, the Coast Guard Summer Development Program, and our summer camps. They share one idea: safer communities are built, not wishes into being. We build them by giving the next generation places to learn, mentors they can trust, and goals they can reach with effort. If you could not be with us this year, consider this your invitation when enrollment opens again.
Participants were introduced to a variety of musical instruments, including guitar, drums, keyboard, steel band, flute, trumpet, and more. The culmination of the program featured a live performance by the children, showcasing their newfound skills through instrumental renditions. This year's Police Band Summer Program continues a long-standing tradition of the RSVG-PF's commitment to youth development through music and mentorship.